lecture, we will introduce business process management. Business process management is a systematic and structured approach for analyzing, managing, controlling and improving over time business processes of a company, with the aim of integrate different activities and improve the final overall performances of products and services. The fundamental assumptions of business process management are: processes are cross-functional because they are transversal to organizational structures. Process management and orientation consist in orienting the resources of the organizational structure towards the objectives that are central for business and for customer satisfaction. Processes and organizational structure coexist without necessarily implying a horizontal organization or a matrix organization. Process management requires the revision and the redistribution of managerial tasks and responsibilities between processes and organizational units. Companies may show different levels of maturity in the implementation of a process orientation. They can in fact adopt a process view just to few processes in the company, for example, related to the need of solving specific problems. The typical example of this is the implementation of a process view of quality management to improve the quality of the production when we have problems related to defectiveness. Companies can also implement a more diffuse orientation to process for all the relevant processes of the organization, and so put in place a more mature business process management with also a proactive approach to process improvements and redesign. When a company operates in a competitive market in which the orientation towards the final customer and customer satisfaction is key, adopting a diffuse orientation to process and mature business process management approach is beneficial. Business process management is structured in specific phases, which are summarized in the figure. We start from process discovery, which consists in identifying the macro processes of the company and in the mapping of these processes. Process design is the detailed mapping of the processes in terms of inputs, outputs, activities, resources, and so on and so forth. Then, process deployment consists in identifying the key performance indicators. Process execution refers to the communication about the processes in the company and the implementation of them. Process monitoring refers to the measurement of the performances of the processes and the identification of the gaps between desired performances and the actual performances. Process analysis and optimization refers to the analysis of the criticalities and the identification of action plans for improvements of processes. Finally, we have also process maintenance, which is a continuous phase dedicated to the update and maintenance of the documentation of the process. To put in place business process management, there are two fundamental dimensions: performances and principles. We will talk in details about these two dimensions in some dedicated lectures, but let's now have a quick overview of both. Performances quantify the capability of the final output produced in a process to satisfy the customer needs and requests, and consequently to quantify the creation of value for the customer. Monitoring and improving performances is a fundamental managing tool for a company that wants to be process-oriented. A process is typically characterized by operational performances that refers to cost, time, quality, and flexibility. These performances determine the effectiveness and efficiency of the process. Principles refer instead to the different categories of levers that an organization can use to adopt process orientation. First, management can act on the culture of the organization, trying to shift from a function-oriented culture to a focus on the flow and interdependencies among activities and functions involved throughout the process. Second, we can leverage on organizational design, both redesigning organizational units at the macro level or at the micro level, or redesigning roles and jobs performed in the organization. Third, we can leverage on specific managerial practices that support business process orientation that are able to design, map, measure, and monitor the processes and their objectives both at the local and at the systemic level. Each of these three levers is deployed into specific principles that we will discuss in details in dedicated lectures. Finally, For an effective business process management implementation, the use of technology is very important. In particular, ICT is fundamental to facilitate process orientation. The adoption of information systems typically fosters the organization to adopt a process view, as it happens, for example, with ERP systems. But at the same time, an information system could work properly only if the organization put in place properly the other business management principles.